Ever find yourself wrestling with clunky software trying to access your Linux machines remotely? Yeah, the struggle is real. But that's why we're diving into ThinLinc by Sendio today. They promise effortless remote access to Linux desktops no matter what device you're using.
And that's a pretty big deal. ThinLink isn't just like screen sharing, it's streaming your entire Linux desktop experience to any device. You can think of it as having your work environment, the one you're used to, available anywhere you go.
Okay, now that's got my attention, but I'm guessing you're not just talking about your typical computers, right?
You got me. So they mentioned Windows and Mac OS, obviously, but ThinLink also works with any Linux distribution. And get this, it even runs straight from a web browser. We're talking serious cross-platform compatibility.
Now that is impressive, especially for someone like me who values flexibility. But with all this remote access talk, the security alarm bells in my head are kind of going off.
Yeah, I get it. And it's a valid concern these days. Security is definitely paramount, and ThinLink tackles this head-on. They create what they call encrypted tunnels for all their network traffic. Imagine it as a secure, like a coded pathway for your information. It makes it way harder for anyone who's not authorized to intercept your data.
So it's not just about convenience, it's about having that peace of mind knowing your data is actually protected. But let's dig a little deeper into these benefits. The Sendio website mentions local-like performance and high availability.
Yeah.
What do those terms really mean for someone using ThinLink every day? Break it down for me.
You're right. We need to go beyond just the buzzwords. Let's start with local-like performance. Yeah. It really comes down to ThinLink's architecture. Basically, without getting too technical, it optimizes how your desktop is streamed. And this leads to a much smoother, lag-free experience, even when you're working with applications that use a lot of graphics, the demanding ones.
So no more feeling like you're trying to work through molasses with traditional remote access.
Exactly. ThinLink aims for a much more responsive and, dare I say, enjoyable experience. And then there's high availability, which basically means less downtime and fewer interruptions to your workflow.
So less panicking when technology decides to take a break. That's always a plus in my book. But how does ThinLink actually pull this off, this high availability?
So typically, ThinLink will use two servers. And if one server happens to go down for whatever reason, the other server is ready to pick up the slack. You can just keep working without missing a beat.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Robust security, impressive performance that you'd expect from a local setup, and a system designed for maximum uptime. Sounds pretty good so far. But I'm always a bit skeptical until I see how something performs in the real world. And luckily, the Sendio website gives us a peek into how ThinLink is being used across different industries and use cases.
Yes, and it's a pretty diverse range, which really shows how flexible it is. They showcase everything from, providing Linux access in workplaces where Microsoft products are king, to making media production workflows smoother. They even have examples of ThinLink being used for intuitive access to high-performance computing environments.
Yeah.
HPC.
HPC environments. For those who might not be familiar, can you explain what that means and why ThinLink is a good fit for those situations?
Of course. HPC, or high-performance computing, basically refers to using really powerful computers to solve those complex computational problems. Think like scientific research, financial modeling, even the high-end animation and special effects you see in movies. These tasks need a huge amount of processing power.
Ah, I see. So instead of being tied to one specific superpowered computer, ThinLink allows you to access these HPC environments remotely.
Exactly. It's about making those resources available to researchers, scientists, or anyone who needs them, no matter where they are physically. This can be a game changer for collaboration and scientific advancement.
It's fascinating to see how ThinLink can bridge that gap between powerful computing and the people who need it wherever they are. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little closer to home for a lot of listeners, the actual experience of using ThinLink. I'm curious, how does ThinLink compare to other remote access solutions out there, the ones people might already be using? Things like VNC or Real VNC. What makes it stand out?
That's a great question, and it's definitely key to see how ThinLink stacks up. One of the biggest differences, I think, is how easy it is to use. The People Say section on their website. It's full of comments from users who specifically talk about struggling with, like VNC and Real VNC, before they found ThinLink.
What kind of struggles are we talking about here? I've played around with a VNC a bit, and while it works, it can be a pain to set up, especially if you care about security.
Exactly. A lot of users say ThinLink is just way simpler to set up and use, especially compared to VNC, which often needs someone with some tech skills to configure it securely. ThinLinc takes care of all that complicated stuff for you, so it's accessible to more people.
So it's about making Linux desktops easier for anyone to use, no matter their technical know-how. I like that. But what about performance? Ease of use is great and all, but if the remote desktop itself is laggy or frustrating, it's not much use.
Oh, absolutely. And that's another area where ThinLinc really shines. They've got users, especially those connecting from far away, who rave about how much smoother their experience is, especially compared to, say, NX, which often choked over long distances.
So even with demanding tasks, or if your internet connection isn't the best, ThinLink can handle it.
That's the idea. It's built to be responsive and efficient, even when you're pushing it to the limit. Remember that local-like performance we talked about earlier? That's not just a marketing line. It's backed up by what people are actually experiencing.
It's one thing to read about these advantages on a website, but it's a whole other thing to hear it straight from the people using it every day. Sounds like ThinLink is a hit with its users.
Definitely. That constant stream of positive feedback is hard to ignore. People using ThinLink are genuinely impressed by its performance, security, and how user-friendly it is, especially compared to those frustrations they had with other solutions.
It's clear ThinLink is a really strong contender in a world full of remote access options. But instead of just seeing it as a way to get on a computer remotely, I want to step back for a second. Think about its potential impact on the future of work, even education. We're at a point where remote work is more and more common, and what we need our computers to do is just getting more intense. So how do you see solutions like ThinLink shaping how we work, learn, collaborate, especially in fields that need a lot of computing power? So we've talked about how ThinLink is more than just a way to access your Linux desktop from anywhere. It's really a powerful tool that could change how we think about work and even education, especially in fields that need some serious computing power. What kind of future are we talking about, with things like ThinLink leading the way?
I'm picturing a future where those powerful computing resources, they're not stuck in one place anymore. Imagine like a team of scientists working together on, I don't know, a climate model. They're all over the world, but they're accessing a central HPC cluster through ThinLink. Or think about a classroom full of students learning to code. Each one's on their own device, but they're all connected to this shared Linux environment. It opens up so many possibilities for working together, for sharing knowledge. It's huge.
It's like you were saying before, making high-performance computing available to everyone. But it's not just about being able to access it, is it? There's also a huge potential for saving money.
You're spot on. Organizations could really cut back on those expensive individual workstations. Instead, they could use centralized resources that everyone can access with ThinLink. That means they're using their resources better, they're more efficient, and everyone has the tools they need no matter where they happen to be.
And let's not forget about security, which is a bigger and bigger deal these days.
Exactly. ThinLink has those strong security features, so organizations have more control over their data, their applications, even when people are accessing them remotely from all over the place.
Yeah.
It's that peace of mind you need when cybersecurity is so critical.
So to wrap up our deep dive into ThinLink by Shendio, it's clear this solution is a secure, high-performance, and user-friendly way to access Linux desktops and applications from pretty much anywhere, on any device.
It gives us a glimpse into this future where you are physically, whether you have access to expensive hardware, all those limitations matter less and less. It's about giving people the power to do more, to collaborate better, and to really push the boundaries of what's possible in our digital world.
This has been fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into ThinLink. And for our listeners, if you're intrigued by what you've heard today and you want to learn more, head over to the Shendio website and check it out. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.